It's Thursday, January 13th, 2011. I'm Kevin McShann, and this is the McShann Sports Beat Report.
Joins us here on SportsCenter. Is Brady Hoke the right guy for this job?
You know, Linda, he might be. I mean, it's not going to be the kind of sizzle name that Jim Harbaugh or a Les Miles would have been. You know, guys that have finished their seasons in the top 5 in the nation in years past. And Brady Hoke, what he has done is built up 2 programs that's very hard to win at. That's San Diego State and Ball State, and he is a Michigan man. They got their guy that has been at the program, knows the program, understands the program. So maybe not the most exciting hire, but for the long haul, I think he's got a chance to succeed there.
You know what? It's interesting that this hiring of Brady Hoke, of course, has happened now a day after Gene Chizik takes an Auburn team in his second year at Auburn to the national championship. And we all remember the so-called outrage when Gene Chizik was hired as the head coach at Auburn. Some people didn't like that hire. So here comes Brady Hoke into Michigan. There's got to be hope maybe then for Hoke in Michigan.
Sure. You know, that's a very good point. That you know what, you can't just judge the hire, first of all, on your first initial reaction, and secondly on the, you know, whether the guy has a dazzling resume to that point. I mean, it's obviously Gene Chizik had a terrible record at Iowa State, but that did not mean he couldn't coach, and Auburn was smart enough to see that. And on the other side, you know, Brady Hoke, I believe, has a losing career record, but that doesn't mean he can't coach. If you can go 12-0 at one point at Ball State, and if you can get San Diego State back to a bowl game for the first time in more than a decade, you can do some pretty good work. So the difficulty, the one thing that could be tough there, Linda, is, you know, he's not a spread offense kind of guy, at least not in the way that Rich Rodriguez was. So again, you're going to be remaking an offense, I think, and kind of, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some adjusting to fit his players to his style.
So another makeover in store at Michigan under Brady Hoke. Pat Forty with the latest on the new coach in Ann Arbor.
The ability to dream is one of the greatest gifts we're given at birth. The ability to aspire to be the best we can be is one of the finest gems we're given during the course of our lifetime. For Brady Hoke, he's waited his entire collegiate coaching career to be named the head coach of the University of Michigan's football team. On Wednesday, he finally got his wish, and Michigan got their Michigan man when Hoke was formally introduced as the 19th head coach in the storied history of the Maize and Blue. Doug Karsh of 97 Won the Ticket tells us why Michigan fans shouldn't rush to judgment on the hiring of Brady Hoke, and why it may work out for the best in the long term.
Hi, it's Doug Karsh from Karsh and Anderson. Her weekdays from 10 to 2 on 97 Won the Ticket. Look, I understand Michigan fans wanted the perfect candidate. They wanted a unifying character to be the head coach of their football program. A big name with a big splash. A guy who's recruited the Midwest. A guy who's won a national championship. A guy who has deep Michigan roots. But that guy wasn't out there. The closest thing we had was Jim Harbaugh. But Harbaugh didn't want to come to the University of Michigan. He chose the NFL. People say all the time that David Brandon didn't get Harbaugh because Lloyd Carr didn't want him. Mary Sue Coleman, the university president, didn't want him. I've been told David Brandon was given carte blanche to do whatever he wanted, and that Lloyd Carr wasn't going to keep him from making a hire. Mary Sue Coleman wasn't going to keep him from making a hire. This was David Brandon's decision, and David Brandon's decision exclusively. Yes, Les Miles was a big name, and he's got the national championship on his resume. He's also in the midst of an NCAA investigation down at LSU. Given that Michigan is on probation already, I don't know how favorably the NCAA would look on Michigan if they hired a coach under the speculation of NCAA rules violations, and that guy came to Michigan and committed a violation. Look, the death penalty goes to repeat offenders. Michigan doesn't want to wade into that water, and that might have been just too much for David Brandon to risk. Brady Hoke is a solid hire, if indeed he's the choice. I realize he's not a big name. He doesn't bring a lot of sizzle, but guess what? The last guy was a big name and brought a lot of sizzle. They're looking for a guy who understands Michigan and wants to be here. Check on Brady Hoke. He's coached the Midwest. He's recruited the Midwest at Western Michigan, Ball State, Toledo, and Michigan. His time at Michigan, he was the defensive line coach on what people think is the greatest defense in Michigan history in 1997. He'll hit the ground running, put together a monster staff, and be able to recruit in Michigan, Ohio, and the Chicago area. Can he get a recruiting class this year? If he gets a highly ranked recruiting class this year, I think it's a sign of very good things to come. I'm Doug Karsh.
Both Brandon and Hoke met with the media on Wednesday to discuss their vision for Michigan football as they move forward into this partnership and what it'll take to put Wolverines football back on the national map.
1 week ago, I was in this room and I indicated that it was my plan to conduct a national search for the next football coach at the University of Michigan. I traveled to 5 cities in 6 days. Like I need to tell you that. I interviewed several coaches face-to-face and several more via telephone. It was exhausting, but it was very productive and I believe very important. I met coaches from several different conferences, several different regions of the country, and with several different personalities, coaching philosophies, and levels of interest in the Michigan job. I learned as part of this process, it's the first time I've been through it, that all that glitters is not gold when it comes to some coaches. A 2 or 3 hour meeting with a coach uncovers much more than you can learn scanning the internet or just sifting through statistics. Sometimes the hype or the PR doesn't match the real person, and this is why you have to meet and interview candidates to make the right decision. I accomplished my goal in the last week of testing the market and putting myself in a position to be able to select the very best leader for Michigan football to ensure an exciting and successful future for our players, our students, and our fans. Brady Hoke is a guy that if I met him when he was a coach here, I don't remember, and I don't think he does either. We just didn't have an opportunity to have any kind of a relationship. And the first time I met him that I recall was this last summer at a charitable event he flew into town for, and we shook hands and spent about 12 seconds in conversation. So, contrary to maybe some folks' belief, I had no relationship and didn't really know Brady Hoke really well until the several hours that we spent together as part of this search process. I didn't know him before, but I knew a lot about him afterwards. I believe I have done exactly what I set out to do in the selection of Brady Hoke as Michigan's head football coach. There were a number of criteria that I established, actually 12 of them, that in every interview process the individual was rated, and I did that with every coach I interviewed. But the 2 that I want to highlight particularly for you that will tell you a lot about Brady Hoke are, number 1, his love for this football program and his intense desire to compete for this job. And secondly, his reputation as a coach who can take a program over, recruit great players, and wins because his players want to play for him. He is clearly unlike some other coaches, it's not about him. It's about his players, and it's about his team. Brady understands Michigan and what football means here. He has lived it as a coach, and he knows what it takes to be successful. He doesn't have to learn the words to the victors. He sang it many times in the locker room. He doesn't need a map to get around Ann Arbor. He was a member of our community for 8 years. And he told me that he participated in something like 25 summer football camps in a row here on this campus at the University of Michigan. As the search process progressed, I became more and more interested in Brady as a primary candidate and started connecting with people Brady had worked for, coaches who had coached with him, players who had played for him, and very important, I talked to coaches who have coached against him. The feedback I received was consistent and clear. This is a special guy who can do great things for Michigan football.
I can tell you this, we've had a love for Michigan for a number of years. And growing up in the state of Ohio, I had a lot of respect for Coach Hayes and loved Coach Hayes. But I was not a fan of that university in Ohio because my buddies were. So I had to be different. And I can tell you the one thing about it is I became a Michigan fan and fanatical about the University of Michigan. And so to be here today is something that, believe me, we hold close to our hearts, and the opportunity that we have as a family and as a Michigan family, I can promise you, we want to make sure that we live up to the traditions, the legacies in high regard. We understand what Michigan football means and what Michigan football is. We will always be about the team at Michigan. This is never going to be about Brady Hoke. This is about a football program. This is about a team and 42 Big Ten championships. And that's what this program is going to be about. And the things that we believe in the foundation is going to be our character. The character of the guys on the staff, the character of the kids in the program, and everybody who touches those kids on a daily basis. Because character wins in life, and character wins on the football field. The character teams are the ones who play together, the ones who stay together, the ones who are accountable to each other. And we're going to be a program that is going to be accountable. We're going to have a foundation of toughness, because I don't care what position you play, this is a tough man's game. Doesn't matter if you're the holder on the field goal. You have to be mentally tough. You have to be physically tough, because that's the way a game of football is played. And that will be part of the philosophy. We are going to be a team that competes with a high degree of effort every time we take the field. When we run out on the practice field, we're going to compete. And we're going to compete every day, because you get better when you compete. And that's what we're going to do as a football team. Accountability and respect. We're going to respect every guy in this program. We're going to respect every person on this campus. We're going to respect everybody in the community, and we're going to respect the tradition of the University of Michigan and its football program. So we're excited to be here, I can promise you. And one other thank you I should give to the thousands of players that we've been able to touch as a family. Go Blue!
The hiring of Brady Hoke won't draw much fanfare or gain much publicity. It isn't the sexy or appealing name that many fans were hoping for to fill that coaching vacancy in Ann Arbor. But with that in mind, the Wolverines tried that 3 years ago when they hired Rich Rodriguez, and we all know what that got them. Their fan base divided and their alumni dejected. Brady Hoke may be just what the doctor ordered and the remedy to fix Michigan's problems, especially on the defensive side of the football, where the team surrendered 458 points, their worst in school history. He has the pedigree to fix defense quickly, and if Michigan wants to get back to the top, their defense has to be first in line. As for their offense, they have to adapt a system to fit the dynamic playmaking ability of Denard Robinson at quarterback. So while the last name on the coach's office in Schembechler Hall doesn't read Harbaugh or Miles, it appears, considering the current state of the program, that Michigan got the right Michigan man. Kevin McShann, Sports Beat Report.